Okay, so here's another Bayes application, and this again is in your textbook. It's actually exercise number 88, and this is a really good one. So let's read this one. It's an auto insurance. It says you've got good, medium, or poor risk drivers. Drivers who apply to them for insurance fall into these three groups. So they got 30%, 50%, 20%. And then they've got the probability that a good driver is in an accident is 0.01, the probability that a medium risk driver is in an accident is 0.03, and a poor driver is 0.10. It says the company sells Mr. Brody an insurance policy and he has had an accident. What's the probability that Mr. Brophy is? Again, we're going to use Bayes' theorem to apply this. So again, I'm going to write out my, just like I did before, my prior probability. Remember, that's your margin. I'm going to write out my condition. There's that column. And then I'm going to write out the joint probability, okay? And then I'm going to write out the posterior. Now, this one has three priors, so I'm going to have an A1, an A2, and an A3, because the way they group these is, if I go back to the top, you've got good, medium, or poor. So I'm just going to make a note. You've got good, medium, or poor drivers. And they give you the probability. I'm going to put these in decimals, 0.30, you got 0.50, and then finally you've got 0.20. Okay, and of course, if you add these up, there's your 1. Remember, this is your margin, should equal 1. Now, this column, which I like to label as B given A, guys, B is going to represent that you're in an accident. Okay, so that's going to be that event. And they go ahead and give you those conditions. So the good drivers, notice it's going to be what, 0.01. I'm going to put that right there. Medium risk drivers is going to be 0.03. I'm going to put that in that column. And then the most risky, the poor drivers, I'm going to put 0.10. I'm going to put that, of course, right there. Now, then the last step is simply, all you have to do, again, I said this before, the hardest part with Bayes' theorem is really setting up those first two columns. But once you get that, everything else is just doing the math. So take 0.30 and multiply 0.01, and that's going to be 0.003. I'm going to write that right here, 0.003. And then take 0.50 and multiply that by 0.03, and you get 0.015. I'm going to put that right there. Okay, and then finally take 0.2 times 0.1, and you get 0.02. Okay, so I'm going to put that right there. So then remember the last step, at least in this column, you have to add these together. So add 0.015 plus 0.02 plus 0.003, and you get 0.038. And of course, they call that, that's the sum of your joint probabilities. Okay, now the last step to get your posterior probabilities or updated probabilities is to take each one of these and divide by 0.038. So you take 0.003 divided by 0.038, 0.015, divide that by 0.038, and then you take 0.02 and you would divide that by 0.038. And then typically when I get to this posterior column, you could always round these to 2 decimals. So 0.003, if I do this on my calculator, 0.003 divided by 0.038, again rounded, I'm going to say that's about 0.08. So I'm just going to say, let's just round this to say 0.08. Then if I take 0.015 divided by 0.038, that's going to give me about 0.39. Again, that's close enough for me, so you could just say that's approximately 0.39. And then finally, the last one, if you take 0.02 and divide that by 0.038, you're going to get about 0.53 roughly. Looks like it's about 0.53 if I wrote around that. So I'll put 0.53 there. And then notice if I add these together, 0.53 plus 0.39 plus 0.08 does give me 1. And so basically your last column, should equal 1 approximately. But again, this I would label as A given B. Okay, now go back to the question. It says the company sells Mr. Brody an insurance policy and he has an accident. Notice that's the given B. Given they have an accident, what's the probability they're in each of these categories? So you could say 8% for the good drivers, 39% for the medium risk drivers, and there's a 53% chance they were actually a poor driver. This is how you apply Bayes' theorem. Follow the tabular approach. It will definitely, hopefully, simplify Bayes' theorem for you.